The work of civic society organizations has been felt enormously around the world. Civil society organizations world over have contributed immensely in promoting good governance and enhancing civil liberties through policy dialogue, delivery of social services, and implementation of development programs to better the livelihoods of citizens as a complement to government efforts. It is no doubt that without the work of these dedicated men and women in different CSOs, the world would be a darker place. Every nation experiences political, economic, and social transformations that impact different sections of society differently. Civil society organizations can be viewed as a collective force of players that help recreate a balance between people throughout these transformations. Since attaining independence, the government of Zimbabwe has signed international and regional treaties that are aimed at enhancing democracy, human rights, gender equality, poverty reduction, transparency, and good governance. Civil societies play a crucial role in monitoring the sincerity of government to implement these treaties that are designed to improve the livelihoods of people. CSOs are arranged around specific issues that bring citizens' concerns to government, monitor policies, and encourage political participation at community level. Democratic governance and human rights are premised on the notion of equal participation by all citizens in any country. However, for women in Zimbabwe, this ideal is far from being realized. When women have a real voice in all governance institutions, they will be able to participate equally with men in public dialogue and influence the decisions which determine their own future and that of their families, communities, and nations. Although the Constitution is clear that all the political parties should meet the constitutional provisions on gender parity and equal participation, the political parties do not show the willpower to create environments that give more women a chance to be included in mainstream politics. Since independence, civil society organizations have tirelessly advocated for more women to be involved in government decision-making structures. The Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe is one CSO that has done tremendous work in enhancing women's participation in electoral processes in Zimbabwe.
Isisu sesangano Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe tiri sangano rinoshanda nevanhu vakawanda muno muZimbabwe. Tine anonzi chapters kuma provinces kwatinogara uko. Ma 10 provinces eZimbabwe tine anonzi chapters ndo anoita basa rewikozi vakanangana nenharaunda yavagere nayo nemacommunities anoshanda nawo. Basa ratinoita tinotarisa kodzero dzemadzimai nedzevana vasikana, kusimudzirwa kwadzo, kutyorwa kwadzo. Tinonyanya kutarisa naizvozvo kushungurudzwa kwemadzimai kune nzira dzakasiyana siyana, kungave kuye kwatinoti domestic violence, kuye kunganzi kushungurudzwa kweemotional violence, kana munzvimbo dzekumabasa, kunzvimbo chero ingangowanika mudzimai. Basa iroro tinoita takabatana semasangano emadzimai emuno muZimbabwe, ndikureva kuti women's organizations anomirirawo futi kodzero dzemadzimai ari pachikamu ichocho chikunzi Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe. Tinovazve membership anonzi individual members. Ava ndo dungamunhu anenge achikwanisa hake achizvinzwa munyama yake kuti anonzwa kuda kwairira kana kuti kumirira kodzero dzevasikana nemadzimai emuno muZimbabwe. Saka iri basa tinorita takaungana takawanda kudaro tichienda kunharaunda dzakasiyana siyana dzandataura dzandadoma kuti maprovince eZimbabwe ese ari 10 tinenge tiriko nemachapters achishanda, uyezve tino anonzi maclusters. Maclusters andi anonyanyodzika pasi pamidzi yenyaya dzatinochema nadzo. Tingataure nyaya dzeutano, tingataure nenyaya dzemhirizhonga dzanambotaura nezvadzo, tingataurazve nenyaya dzemutemo, malawyers atinotaura pachirungu anomirira kodzero dzevanhu kumagweta tinawo iwawo zvakare. Saka mathematic areas aya anove vatungamiriri vatinoti macluster leads, ndo vanoshanda mazuva ose atingati day to day, uyezve vachishanda zvine machapters vachisangana kuti nyaya idzi dzogadziriswa sei,
So what we do as the Girls Table, we create platforms of engagement between young women and duty bearers. We also encourage young women to write articles and to report on whatever issue that they see happening in their communities. And we also encourage young women to contribute to sustainable development in terms of participating in decision-making processes in this country.
Women and young girls in Zimbabwe continue to experience human rights abuse at home and at work, and this has affected their ability to contribute confidently to the development of the nation. In Zimbabwe, child marriages continue to happen despite laws that make them unlawful. It is reported that 33.7% of girls under the age of 18 are married. Zimbabwe is among 20 African countries where child marriages are prevalent. In August 2020, a 14-year-old girl died whilst giving birth at a church shrine in Marange. Child marriage is a gross human rights violation which puts girls at a risk of violence and ill health and remains one of the neglected human rights violations by African governments. However, civil society has emerged as a crucial force in the fight against this human rights abuse on the girl child in
When you
Zimbabwe.
look at the status of women's rights and you look at it from, say, 10 years ago, there has been a transition in terms of the ability of women to be able to speak out to issues that affect them. But we still say there is a lot more work that needs to be done with regards to the rights of women. Under the umbrella of the Women's Coalition, we've been pushing for recognition of unpaid care work. We've been pushing for more resources to be allocated towards health, towards education, towards social services. And for one, as an organization, we pride ourselves because for the first time in 2021, we had the Minister Mutuli speak of a budget, gender responsive budget statement. For us, that's progressive. At least for us, it shows that there is an indication that the rights of women are being taken into consideration.
This organization was started in 2018, and we have implemented quite a number of projects whereby we were educating young women on the governance structures that are available in their communities, with the roles of the councillors, the roles of the members of parliament, the roles of the RDC, where exactly they're supposed to get help. We've conducted quite a number of leadership trainings with young women where we were trying to capacitate them to advocate, to mobilize and to speak their issues on their own.
We've been instrumental in conducting conversations for women here at our offices. We've been also instrumental at community level where we've done a series of trainings on various components that have to do with enhancing the rights of women. And I think the starting point for us has been to raise awareness that there are rights that are specific to women versus having human rights, and how women can claim the rights of women. As the rights of women are specific to some of the needs that have to do with women. Just like you have child rights, we also have women rights.
The issue of human rights has always been a disturbing issue in Zimbabwe. Vulnerable groups, especially rural women, have experienced human rights abuse through cultural and social practices that have become acceptable to Zimbabwean society. Civil society groups have been very instrumental in fighting for civil liberties for these groups in post-colonial Zimbabwe, which has seen most women being freed from these social and cultural vices. The work of the civil organizations in this regard has empowered women to be active participants in the development of their communities and has further helped in alleviating poverty in various communities across Zimbabwe.
The role of civil society as non-state actors is to provide oversight on the government and different state apparatus, including mobilizing citizens, creating agency and voice, and raising awareness on critical constitutional provisions that pertain to the rights of Zimbabweans. And with the introduction of the PVO, it will really affect not only women but also men, boys, LGBTQ communities. If you look at the 2013 Constitution, for citizens to know the rights that are contained in the current Constitution, 70%, if not 90%, work was done by civil society.
In our work, our highlight has been working with traditional leaders who have now become champions of change in addressing and dealing with gender-based violence. Also, we have partnered with men who champion change as male champions, and we have seen them engaging other men as peer educators towards transforming their behaviors, their attitudes and practices. One of our successes has also been working with the church, with faith leaders and faith communities towards addressing some of the religious and cultural issues that perpetuate violence against women and girls. Women themselves have been our major success, because we have seen women who have been able to help other women who encounter violence, women gaining confidence to report cases of abuse, and women being able to stand up and have the necessary agency to challenge certain barriers and cultural structures within their communities so as to make their communities safer spaces to live in. One of our successes as well has been advocating for the Labour Act to have a clause that speaks to sexual harassment and becoming more comprehensive in addressing sexual harassment in the world of work. While it not may have been what we wanted on a broader scale, but aspects and components of sexual harassment have been included, and this gives employers the obligation to address sexual harassment in the world of work. We basically work with the Ministry of Women Affairs at the local level, who are basically our entry point in accessing communities and addressing communities. We work with the local government, the councillors, in terms of mobilizing communities to participate in our activities. We work with what is called the GBV Management Committee, the Gender-Based Violence Management Committee, which has various stakeholders ranging from the Ministry of Women Affairs, the local government, the police, Ministry of Education, and other line ministries that directly address issues of gender-based violence. And this is where we coexist, share ideas, hold each other accountable in terms of the activities and the actions that we're doing. So we have kind of had a direct relationship with them. We've also worked with the Parliament of Zimbabwe in addressing some of the legislative issues that exist in Zimbabwe and how we can push them forward. So from the most local level, from councillor level, the local government level, from the district level to the provincial level and the national level, I can say that we have worked with government departments in fulfilling our mandate.
Research has shown that youths can play a significant role in developing a nation's political, social, and economical fabric because of their knowledge in technology and world trends. Youth constitute 60% of the Zimbabwe's population, yet they continue to be excluded from governance structures. They offer a vibrant human resource base that can transform Zimbabwe in different spheres, and their continued exclusion has slowed the development of the nation. However, CSOs have been on the forefront in advocating for youth participation at community and government level, and this has seen a gradual increase in youth participation in political, social decision-making processes.
We consider ourselves as the intellectuals of the society. So it is our duty as the National Students' Union to also educate the society about what the sustainable development goals mean to the whole world and to the nation and to our communities. What is the benefit that we get if we are going to be pushing that? So for example, for us as NASU, we actually promote mainly SDG 4 and SDG 5. That is equal access to education and equality, but then it doesn't end on that. We also promote other SDGs, but giving the society and also the other youth, because there are other youth who were not privileged enough to access higher and tertiary education, but we also need to be educating our fellows from our communities, whether in the rural areas, whether here in towns, about what it means when we talk about SDGs. What do we want to achieve? What are the goals, and where are they driving, and what are they protecting?
Our organization have played a leading role in promoting youth in governance processes. Over the years, we have interacted with over 10,000 young people. Some have benefited directly from our projects, and some have benefited indirectly. And in partnership with organizations that we have worked with, we've always made sure that young people are at the leading and also promoting young women in governance.
CSOs have been instrumental in empowering women and young people to be active players in the development of their communities since independence. They have worked with government in promoting human rights and reducing the impacts of poverty in vulnerable and marginalized communities. They are formed out of people for the people, and as such should not be viewed as enemies of the state. The proposed PVO amendment bill seeks to constrict the liberties of CSOs by viewing them as political activists who are a threat to government. Civil society organization work should not be controlled or censored, as this will create a barrier for donor funding for critical sectors which CSOs have acted as conduits of financing. Coupled to this doing, so we'll be going against the founding ethos of the liberation movement, which sprouted from civil groups like trade unions and student unions. In its design, it provides for rampant corruption through the monitoring mechanisms that it has put in place.
How do you define politics, right? An organization that is working to get citizens understand their constitutional rights, right, may be deemed political. So the bill itself does not quite explain what it means by political. It leaves that interpretation at the discretion of the minister to say what is deemed political. And that is also very problematic in the sense that organizations are going to be penalized for being involved in politics because someone has interpreted what the work that they are doing on the ground as politics. And that actually violates the fundamental rights that are stated in the Constitution, which I alluded to, particularly the right to form organizations and the right to association, also even the right to freedom of expression, in the sense that organizations will not be able to freely, engage in issues for fear of victimization or for fear of being deregistered. Because the activities may be deemed political.
The Private Voluntary Organizations Amendment Bill is going to affect in a very significant way the work that we do in Zimbabwe and the communities that we work with. For most of these organizations, it is going to disrupt their programming and their programs in the specific communities in which they work, in which they are currently programming, until such a time that they are in compliance with the new law that might come in. And for some of these, they might not even be able to re-register. That might also mean that their work would have been cut short and their mandates will fail to service and to assist some of the communities that they were working on. More importantly, the PVO Amendment Bill is trying to introduce new measures around the financing of private voluntary organizations. For most non-governmental organizations, they rely on external funding and support. This is mostly from the development partners. The bill is seeking to put measures that are going to make it very difficult for organizations to access this financing. It means that for you, before you get money, you have to be able to report in terms of who is going to be funding you, where you're getting that money, and it has to be subjected to approval. Previously, organizations were able to access financing and use that for the different development initiatives that they are doing. More importantly, the PV Amendment Bill, it is going to introduce new administrative measures. For instance, there's going to be a registrar of PVOs. It is going to be a new office. And if we look at the current bill in its current format, the registrar of PVOs has got too much power and too much authority in terms of the work of non-governmental organizations.
It will be difficult for us to get support, that we need to make sure that we continue to advocate, we continue to push for women's rights issues.
The livelihoods of women, youths, and people with disabilities has been improved largely due to the work of CSOs around Zimbabwe. The country will continue to undergo different transformations which will create different problems for these vulnerable groups, and civil society organizations will continue to be instrumental in lobbying for the protection of people's rights and equal participation of Zimbabweans in all spheres of the country's development. It is thus important for CSOs to function without political interference, as they have proved to be an integral part of Zimbabwe's development vehicle. The PVO bill should not be adopted, as it will leave vulnerable and marginalized members within our communities further impoverished, as government alone cannot address the plights of these groups. Furthermore, the PVO bill will lead to many CSOs abandoning their projects with communities as they relocate to other nations that have conducive and unrestrictive environments for them to fulfill their mandates. It is everyone's duty to call against this retrogressive bill, which has no place in the development